G'day guys, Tillis20 here and welcome back to Parkitect. In today's episode, we're going to be working on the Mainstreet of $2 Studios. I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, but I wanted this to be based on Hollywood architecture so that it feels like you are walking through like the streets of Hollywood. You're going to have lots of studios around and Art Deco style architecture. And then as you get further on into the park, it then turns into a bit more of a theme park where you have like different themed lands and different attractions that are based on movies and shows and all that sort of stuff. So if you do have any suggestions for those themed lands, please hit me up in the comment section so that we can start planning out the rest of the park as we move forward. While you're down in the comment section, you can leave me some feedback and let me know if you're enjoying Parkitect videos on my channel, and it can be as simple as just rating up the video. These videos don't do as well as my regular content being City Skylines, but I enjoy making these videos just as much, though they do take just as much time to create those episodes for City Skylines. So let me know if you are enjoying it, because it's hard to tell from the YouTube analytics. It's hard to tell if people are just clicking on the videos and then bailing after 10 seconds, or whether people are truly engaging within the content that I'm creating. So rating up the videos definitely helps out a ton. So if you are enjoying it, then do let me know. And I also have just made a channel on my Discord server for Parkitect chat. So if you want to engage with that, then totally get involved. And not to mention a Patreon account where you can get early access to videos, and that supports me to create more Parkitect videos. I have my Wednesdays off from my regular 9-to-5 job, and last Wednesday I pretty much spent the entire time making Parkitect videos. So yeah, I don't know how many times I could justify doing that, but if you guys are interested, then yeah, let me know. So, for today's episode, we are working on buildings, and this is such a fun build. I really enjoy doing it. I'm going to do all time-lapse for this episode because I just wanted to really cement in some buildings, and then we can, really start getting into the gameplay in the next episode. And I also want to let you know that I am uploading all these buildings to the Steam Workshop. So if you are interested in downloading these, then totally go for it. I wasn't going to because it's just an extra step, and I was like, you know what, I should just focus on making videos. But I sort of figured that I've used so many buildings from you guys who are creating content on the Steam Workshop that I should return the favor and upload some stuff for myself. So there you go. So it definitely took me a while to get the hang of making these buildings, and I was really struggling with some of the materials that I could use, some of the props and walls and things that I could use to create these. I'm using a lot of custom content, so a lot of custom assets from the Steam Workshop to create these buildings, because it just gives me more freedom to splice in different types of walls, because they allow you to raise and lower them a little bit more accurate than some of the other types of props that you have just within the vanilla game. And I was, like I said before, I am basing this off Los Angeles style architecture, but I'm actually going down to Street View in a couple of Universal Studios parks and just checking out the types of buildings they have in there, because they are also themed to the Hollywood type of architecture, I guess going on the same type of theming as what I'm doing. So I was looking at some types of buildings, and my technique for creating these was just to find buildings that I wanted to recreate, and then as I was trying to recreate them, I was just putting my own spin on them. So none of them look exactly like the buildings I was taking inspiration from, but that's kind of like a nice thing, because it feels like I'm not copying, but I was totally copying what I was seeing on Google Earth. And my style was basically to try and create something that was like 3 wide and had like a main door in the middle, and then 2 windows on either side. And that was sort of like my style of like structure of the buildings going into it. And I guess it's a little bit art deco types of buildings, and I'm probably going to have, and we will do this in the next episode, but I'm going to have some shops within these buildings, but then others I might end up putting some rides in. I'll actually place down a ride a little later on in this time lapse, and that'll be themed to something totally different that I haven't totally decided what it's going to be themed to yet. But I'm thinking that some of these buildings might have they probably won't have any rides, let's be honest. We'll try and keep these purely just for souvenir shops and foods and stuff like that. People are definitely starting to complain about a lack of toilets and a lack of other services that I really need to start placing down. So we probably have to go through and check out what they need, and we'll place them down within some of these buildings. But then also some of them will end up just being empty, I think, because I don't want to place down too many shops and then I have an overload of shops. But it's really cool to see people wandering around and interacting with these buildings, and it's going to be really cool when we actually start placing down more rides within the park so that they are just making the transition from here into other spots. And I would also like to place some sort of monorail line that's going to start around here. So I don't know, I might have to figure out how I'm going to theme that into this area, because it would be kind of cool if it started off as like a monorail within a city, and then it, on each stop, that stop was then themed to whatever land it stops at. I think that'd be really cool. And I would also like some sort of train, but I think I'll probably just stick with purely just the monorail for the time being, and then a little bit further on down the track, it'd be kind of cool to get some different types of transports that's themed to those areas. So maybe like some sort of boat ride or some sort of tram. I know that there's some really unique types of transport networks that are within like Disney parks, and they're sort of like, they serve a whole bunch of different purposes. So it'd be kind of cool to do something like that as well. So yeah, you can see that this main style of architecture is Art Deco, and it took me a while to figure out exactly how I was going to do it, but yeah, I'm really happy with how these are starting to turn out and take shape. And again, these will be up on the Steam Workshop, so if you are interested in using them, then yeah, let me know how you go with it, and yeah, I'll be keen to see what you guys end up building using these blocks. Hopefully it's not too tricky uploading these using so many different custom assets. I think I'll have to scroll through and figure out what collections you'll need to end up using these. Something that I really love about Parkitect, and I wish they would include something like this within City Skylines. I know there's a couple of mods that do this, but I think that it is really effective within Parkitect, and that's the eyedrop tool. So once I've made a couple of these buildings, then I was just going through and eyedropping the different assets that I used to create those different parts of the building, and I could just use them on the next types of buildings. And that was just so useful because it saved me scrolling through the menu so many times. I didn't have to, pretty much, like once I built 2 buildings, I didn't really need to scroll through any of the menus to find those props anymore, because I already had them somewhere on those buildings. And then like the other really nice thing about it is that when you eyedrop one of those scenery items, you then are given a whole bunch of different related scenery items within the menu, which I think is just so useful. It's one of those really great things that I love about Parkitect that I wish that a lot of other games would incorporate. I know that this game was in development for a long time, and I think they really nailed it with putting together the types of functions that this game has. Now I'm actually creating a coffee house that I wanted to put a bit of extra detail onto this one. This is going to sit on the corner, and I would like it to be a little bit more of a special feature rather than just another building within this area. And I called it just a coffee house, and I am in 2 minds about the use of the letters. And somebody did point this out in the last episode where I used letters to create the ticket booth sign, and because I did mention that I didn't want to use any letters or any actual words within this park. Instead, I was going to use blocks. So I'd like to put it up to you guys. Should I get rid of the coffee house wording and the ticket sign on top of the ticket booths, or should I keep them, or should I replace them with blocks? Because I know that most of the other lettering around this park has just blocks, and then these ones have the signs. I'm not really sure. I'm in 2 minds. I can't make up my mind for this. So yeah, let me know what you think. But yeah, that little diner turned out pretty nice. A little bit later on down the track, there's this really nice corner, and I want to place like a really retro style diner that's going to sit over there, and it's going to be themed, I think, to mechanics, or like one of those 1950s diners. I know we did build one of them in the commercial district, but I'd like to have one that sits within the park as well that would be a really iconic structure and area for this park. One of the things that you just go, that fits in with Tidal Studios. I know exactly where that is. It's probably like a meeting point, and it's going to be in a really specific part of the park, which, yeah, I'm pretty excited to do. I'll probably end up doing that within a special episode. Now I'm starting to work on the ride that I'm going to be placing down here, and at first I thought I was going to place this theater, but it was just a little bit too big, so I decided to get rid of it, and I was just going to leave the gravitron that sits underneath that building, and I thought that can be as the ride that sits there. And the idea behind this ride is I wanted it to be a little bit like not the Transformers ride, the Terminator ride, taking inspiration from the one at Universal Studios. Can't remember which. I think it might be Orlando's Universal Studios, but I'm sure it's at a couple of them. But this one sits within the Hollywood themed area of Universal Studios, and I like that it's sort of based on the same sort of architecture of Hollywood, but it's in the future, so it's kind of like a little bit strange to see it within all this Art Deco style buildings, but it's definitely a ride, and I wanted it to be something that is more like a motion, like a 3D cinema than anything else. So it would technically be a ride, but it's probably more on like the theater side of things. Obviously this isn't going to be Terminator the ride, it's just some sort of themed sci-fi-esque ride that sits within this area, and probably one of the first rides that you'll be, well, actually, yeah, the first ride that you are greeted with when you come into the park. Probably not the most popular ride, but it's definitely something that sits around here. So yeah, we'll end up getting rid of that 3D theater instead, and the gravitron will be that ride. Any name suggestions, please hit me up. You guys are coming up with a whole bunch of really funny names and ideas for theming and different sort of rides that we have around here. That are sort of like based on other rides, and so based on other TV shows and movies, but not quite that. So yeah, please let me know what you end up thinking of. Ended up changing the placement of it. I felt like it needed to be a little bit more like pushed back from the main road, so that we can allow people to line up if they need to, or wait up the front if they're not going into the ride. And yeah, just a couple of sci-fi elements around there, but nothing too much. I didn't really want to do, huge amounts of theming. I wanted this whole area to really feel like Hollywood. And then as you sort of like walk past, you're like, hey, that's not Hollywood. That's a ride in there. And then you sort of wander in and check it out. I've also placed down some palm trees. These are part of the foliage pack that's on the Steam Workshop, an amazing group of assets that I really love, and yeah, I think they add a lot to this environment. Again, we're using palm trees, as Hollywood is very much lined with palm trees, and I've got a couple of other palm trees to choose from, but I think these ones probably fit the best. I really love the long trunks of them, and I also would like to add more on the streets of this main street, but I'm not really sure exactly what. I think I might have to create some custom balloon stores and like little food stores that are going to sit out the front of these areas, and get some just get some more action happening in here, because it seems a little bit dead. Obviously don't want to fill it up too much. I'll need to leave room for people to wander around, but yeah, it'll be nice to get a little bit more business happening around here, but I'm not exactly sure what. I do know that adding in like street lights and benches and stuff adds to the busyness, but yeah, we do need a couple of extra other things. Alright, to finish off the build, I wanted to build something that was more based on Spanish architecture, because Hollywood is has a very Spanish-esque type of vibe going on, with a lot of Spanish type of architecture. So I thought it'd be kind of nice to place down a couple of buildings that are more styled like this, and this would be a nice transition into some of the other lands that are going to sit, because once you sort of get out of this general area, it's going to be very much themed to different styles of, different themed sort of areas. And we're going to have to think about where the giant lake is going to sit, which is going to be in the middle of the park. I'm looking forward to figuring out where the rest of everything's going to go as we move forward within this project. But guys, that is pretty much it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. A little bit shorter and only a time lapse. Next episode, I think we'll probably do mostly live play and work on a bit more of the money side and detailing of different areas. But I do hope you've enjoyed this one. Again, leave some feedback just by rating up the video. Helps me out a bunch. Lets me know if people are interested or not. So if you are interested, then yeah, just keep on letting me know. I want to give a special shout out to some of my patrons like Vivid Swing, Susan Rowland, and Amaze. Thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!